Welcome back into the Two Tone Report. I'm Ryan Smith. Ethan Jacobs over to my right. Combine, it's over, but also have some other Titans news that went on all the way throughout the week, starting at even before the combine happened. But Ethan, man, how you feeling right now? How's life?
I'm feeling pretty good. Just got done at the gym. It's been a fun week in football. Um, it's been pretty good. Ready to roll.
Oh yeah, and let's roll in right now. Before we talk about the combine, I know that's what it says at the bottom of the screen: combine winners and losers, things like that. Maybe not technically about the losers, but just guys that Titans could pick up here in the early parts or even the later parts of the draft coming up in April. But before we get into that, some news I think kind of split between Titans fans. I think it's split kind of between us. Devondre Sweat is no longer a Tennessee Titan. A sole player trade, just a player for player, not very often happening anymore. Devondre Sweat is now a New York Jet. And in return, Jermaine Johnson is reuniting with Robert Saleh with the Tennessee Titans here, player for player trade. I don't know what to think about this. I've seen some people say that they like it. Some people say that they don't. I know that I don't know his name. I apologize for that. But the guy from Locked On Titans really liked it. I don't think he was ever a fan of Devondre Sweat, but I'm curious to see what you think about Devondre Sweat being traded.
So let's go back to the conversation that we've had over and over again about locker room players. I think it's been well documented and stated that Devondre Sweat, albeit an amazing football player, a great run stuffer, a two-down player that does his job very well, wasn't a very hard worker. That's just been reported. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know. But that's just what's been said, and that's been said a lot around the league. Executives are saying that, so clearly it has some merit to it. I liked Devondre Sweat. I thought he was an interesting personality. I thought he played his role very well, and I thought, okay, he's a young guy on a roster. Might as well keep him on the roster. Though, Jermaine Johnson, which is player for player trades, so not giving up any more capital, the Jets were asking for a second-round pick last year from the 49ers for Jermaine Johnson. And, to get that kind of value out of a two-down run-stuffing tackle isn't bad. Like nose guy, I mean, that's not bad at all. And Jermaine Johnson is very well documented to be an extremely hard worker, locker room glue guy, amazing guy in the locker room who has had production. He's coming a year off of the Achilles, that's I believe what his injury was. And last year wasn't a great year for him. But let's be honest, it's been also very well documented that players, it takes about a year for them to get back to where they were before. And so I'm definitely torn because I really liked Devondre. I really wondered what could happen if he would really lock in. Maybe him and Jeff go train or something because Jeff had an amazing transformation. But I guess we'll never know. Jermaine Johnson seems to be a good addition. And let's be honest here. Finding a player like Devondre Sweat is much easier to find than a player like a Jermaine Johnson, who is an athletic, has had production at a very premium position in the NFL. So I'm kind of torn, but I am not unhappy with it one bit.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. And that was the one thing that, and you're going to have to help me out with his name because I'm going to get pissed off if I don't remember it. But the guy from the Locked On Titans, he was saying, yeah, a guy like Devondre Sweat, Tyler Rowland, I apologize. My fault if he ever sees this. I doubt he will, but still, if he ever sees it, my bad, Tyler. But either way, he's right. Finding a guy who's just a true nose tackle, doesn't really bring much on third downs in those passing down situations, it's not that hard. You can find guys like him in day three that are able to serve their role, UDFAs, guys from free agency who don't cost as much as he did. I don't know how much he cost, but I just can't imagine it was
early second round pick money's a lot.
Yeah, it's a good amount of money for a guy who just was never, even at his peak, was maybe a 5 sack a year guy. And that's being generous because let's be honest with ourselves with what Tavondre brought to the table. He's a nose tackle. He's not going to go in there and get you double digit sacks a year like a Jeff Simmons would or like a Jermaine Johnson could off the edge. He's going to be a guy who's going to be a run defender, and you can find those guys anywhere. You can go. There are plenty of guys like that in this draft that you can go out and get all throughout it, but especially in the later rounds, which is where you're going to find more role-esque players, guys who don't necessarily aren't a jack of all trades, but a master none, still whatever. But a guy who's good at what he does, and Devondre was good at what he does. But is he worth an early second rounder, borderline first? No. And getting Jermaine Johnson, who was a former first round pick and does have that chemistry with Saleh, who had his best season under Robert Saleh, obviously was drafted by him with the Jets, but had his best season with the Jets under Robert Saleh. Kind of just shows that here he actually is here. Look at that. Jermaine Johnson II in the Tennessee Titans. It's not the new logo, man. What are we doing, NFL? You got to get with the times.
Yeah, come on.
But Fanatics already got this going. Come on. What are we doing here? Big L from – you did send me that. But, yeah, I mean, I like it. I'm kind of curious on what this does mentality-wise for the draft in particular, because if the plan is to still go out and get somebody in free agency, whether it be, trading for a Max Crosby, which I don't necessarily see happening, or going out and getting a Trey Hendrickson, going out and getting a premier pass rusher on the edge, what does that do at 4th overall, especially with, what we're going to talk about next, some of the cuts that we saw from the Titans here. I references cap casualty, but, you don't really have those whenever you're $100 million under the cap hit or under the cap limit, cap space, which that was also released today not today, but earlier this week with the new salary cap being at $301 million, which is weird. I think I saw it whenever the salary cap first came out. It was like $40K a year was like the max. It's wild. It's wild to think about, but either way, it's beautiful. But it's curious. I'm curious on what your thoughts are with what does this mean for the draft process? Does it stay the same? Does it, change it all? Especially, obviously with free agency coming up here in the next week. I believe it actually goes. It's this week, next Monday, I think is when it starts. Either way, we're about a week away from free agency. I'm kind of curious on what your thoughts are. And this changes anything draft wise between, for that 4th overall pick.
So, of course, this all depends on free agency, and we don't know that yet, as you said. So, I think if we're just looking at it from this perspective, no. If there's a guy that you fall in love with, again, Jermaine Johnson's on the last year of his rookie deal. He's going to want money if he produces next year. This is a pay him if he works out. If he doesn't, let him go. So there's not quite, and because of that, you have to be prepared to draft someone in that same position who can be there long term, and that you especially believe will be successful in that position, because edge is so important in the NFL. So, I don't think it changes too much. But it definitely, okay. I heard Tyler Rowland say this because, and I agree with it. It maybe changes the type of edge defender you're looking for, defensive end you're looking for. Maybe you just want a guy with a different skill set. Maybe you don't want to get the exact same player because, they need to do different things at different packages. Maybe that's the only thing that could really be affected by it. But then again, even then, I'm still like, if you think this player, even if they're almost a clone of each other, if you think this player is going to be a successful NFL player and that's your guy and you're in love with what he's doing, go get him. So I think his comp would be a David Bailey, kind of a speed rusher. Not the greatest bend in the world, but can get up on you pretty quick. And so maybe something else. Maybe you just go a different position overall if he's Of course, if you go a different position overall because free agency worked out, where maybe there's a guy you trade for, like a Max Crosby, um, definitely changes who you draft. You don't need to allocate every bit of resource to the edge or a
Yeah.
defensive end room.
I don't necessarily think it's like, especially if you do go out and get a premier guy, I don't think you necessarily need to worry about, spending the fourth overall pick on that spot where you got some, pretty glaring needs, whether, you do decide to go with wide receiver, you decide to go with a running back over there at four, or you just decide to trade back as a whole. There are still more needs on this roster. This is not something where you can just sort of ignore it and take best player available regardless of position. You do, like, there are some spots that you can sort of look at and be like, hey, we'll just take the best available at this position or this position or this position, but it's not necessarily something where you can sit here and say, hey, let's go out and get, just whoever at four. I think this is one of those drafts that's definitely, I don't think I spit out a single coherent sentence there, but still,
We get your point.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what free agency holds, especially now. Moving on to this next topic here, it's gonna give me just a second. 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 Got a pair of guys that have been released from the Titans. Lloyd Cushenberry and Xavier Woods. I know, like, I'm not sure about Xavier Woods. I don't know if that was just kind of expected, like, say a L'Jarius
Yeah,
Sneed, or
it
so
was.
that it was expected. But I know you didn't think Lloyd Cushenberry was going to get cut. So I'm
Mm-mm.
curious on what your thoughts on this. I think I kind of I think I know what this kind of means for free agency wise, but I'm curious on what you have to say.
So this means they are trying to get rid of every single one of like Rand Carthon's big money moves that he made during that off season.
Cleanse it
I
of
think
the
Lloyd
Carthon
being a
pick.
year removed from the Achilles, especially because last year wasn't a great year for him. But again, we mention this every time. A player comes back from a surgery. Usually that next season isn't great, but the next season after, they're usually back to their old self. It usually takes a minute. It's a lot of psychological stuff going on. It's nothing physical. It's like it's trusting your step. It's trusting that, and that just takes time. Um, and I would have figured Lloyd would have been a solid, you know, a solid. I mean, he was a decent center. Was he fantastic? No, but there's a plan in place. Whether that is moving potentially Corey Levin just staying at center, which performed pretty well last year when he was in. Moving one of our guards over, that's maybe not a starter, and trying to get them out and trying to see how they perform. Maybe a Jackson Slater, from last year's draft. Um, but it definitely was unexpected. I definitely was very taken aback by it because I was delivering beef. I was in the middle of a beef delivery, and I was like, "Oh, that's crazy!" And I was in the middle of talking to a customer, and I was just like shook. I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." Um, so yeah, it was certainly unexpected, but with Borgonzi, I think. And here's another thing. This will be my last point, and then I'll let you get on to what you're going to say about free agency. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Again, we have made a huge emphasis. I have made a huge emphasis on this locker room. You can tell when a locker room brings a team together and they perform better because they like each other. It's an energy. It's a thing. If people around you care, you inherently care more. I'm not saying Lloyd Cushenberry didn't care, but years ago when he was, or 2 years ago when he was picked up in free agency, they did an interview with Lloyd Cushenberry, and I swear to God, it was the most boring, lifeless, soulless interview I've ever watched in my entire life. I challenge any of you to go back and watch the OTP, the official Titans podcast of the 2023 free agency class with Lloyd Cushenberry. It is watching paint dry. It is the most boring. Like
That's tough.
he's like this.
Jesus.
He's like, yeah, I play football. And it's like, all right, man. Maybe they, especially with the guy at center, maybe they want a guy who's just a little more out there. Maybe he didn't connect with Cam very well. Maybe it was like he stuck to himself. He got his money. He was in and out. I don't know. I don't know. But Borgonzi, that seems to be his thing. He shipped off Jarvis Brownlee Jr. during the season. to the Jets. Devondre Sweat gone. Lloyd Cushenberry gone. Xavier Woods, he was a one-time. He was signed last year, but he was a one-year kind of fill in the spot role. He played well. Uh, that position is easily filled.
Yeah.
There's always a lot of safeties on the market, but
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
that's the
for
reason
sure.
why they got rid of Lloyd.
I think, then, and all that is true, but what I think this means is that they expect Tyler Linderbaum to hit free agency and are going to throw the bag at him. And are gonna, if he does end up signing with the Titans, he's going to be the highest paid center, borderline offensive lineman in the league.
Yes.
That's what I think is going to happen, because I don't think you let go of a guy with like a Lloyd Cushenberry, and he could even be true. Everything that you said, 100% true. That he just maybe doesn't care all that much about playing, just want to get his money, get the bag, and leave, which I respect, honestly.
Real.
Or maybe they just wanted to, like you said, kind of cleanse themselves from the Rand Carthon era, like you're seeing some of these other two teams do. But I really don't think you take a guy who is kind of solidified starter for you at center without having at least a little bit of an understanding of, hey, there's going to be somebody in free agency that is going to be significantly better, that we have the cap space to go get at a, it may not be the flashiest signing ever, but it's going to be a really important one, because having a really good center is really important. You think about, Philly these past couple of years, obviously, 1 year removed with Jason Kelsey, obviously the Chiefs with Creed Humphrey. You think about all these teams with really good centers. I mean, that's a big part of it. And going out and getting Tyler Linderbaum, who's one of the best in the league at the center spot, would be a huge pickup for them, huge pickup for Cam, and especially for Cam, helping him out with protection calls and things like that, because that's, another part of the center is helping him out with pass protection and run blocking and things like that. So it's not just on Cam, but you also have a guy who's really good at it, who's been in the league for a while and knows what he's doing, learned under John Harbaugh. And, that would be the only team that I would think would really be a threat to Tennessee. Getting him, barring the Ravens, obviously haven't announced it yet that they're going to franchise tag him, like the Cowboys did with George Pickens, or like the Falcons did with Kyle Pitts. But there's still an option that could happen. But honestly, with them releasing Lloyd Cushenberry, I don't think that's going to be a part of it. I think they're going to say, hey, they believe he's hitting the market on March 9th and are going to throw the absolute bag at him. I don't know what the league leader for salary at the center would be, but it's going to go past it because they have the money to do that. The Titans do. And
that's your bad tax. If you have to pay, an outside guy who was not on your team or you didn't draft, that's the tax. If you want a good player, that's what it takes. I'm going to stay home. I don't have to move. I don't have to do anything. Pay me a little more and I'll show up. That's just life. That's how it is. And if that happens, I wouldn't be too upset. We have the money. Why not spend it? Why not spend it on a guy that can help Cam develop and be the best quarterback he can be, especially when it comes to protection?
Oh, yeah.
That's super important, and that's hard to do when you're really a young starter who has had some struggles and on a bad team. I think that would be a fantastic idea. Or maybe if it's not Linderbaum, it could be another decent center that might come on the market that people are expecting to do. Or it's just Corey Levin and we're going to allocate our money elsewhere. I have no idea. I can't imagine that being the answer, though. The Titans are historically cheap. Different GM now. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I really, really wouldn't hate that idea. I don't think anyone.
No, it'd be great. It would be a fantastic pickup for Tennessee if the Titans are to go and pick up Linderbaum, which is, like I said, it's not a guarantee. There's still, I don't know when the cutoff, if there even is a cutoff for franchise tags and things like that. But I just can't imagine that you sit here and look and say, you see Tyler Linderbaum, you have a clear need of a starting center. You look at Tyler Linderbaum, who's one of the best in the league, and say, no, we don't want him. We're going to cheap out when you have over $100 million in cap to go out and spend, and a big hole at center, which arguably becomes one of your biggest holes on the offensive side of the ball. Minus, I would say, wide receiver would be the other biggest one. Center becoming your biggest hole on the offensive line now. You got an opportunity to fill that with a top 5 guy in the league. They would be stupid not to do it, or at the very least, not to say like, hey, I'm going to throw you the bag, and if he just doesn't want to go there, if he wants to stay in Baltimore, or if he wants to go up to New York to go play with John Harbaugh some more, so be it, right? You can't say he didn't try. You can't say he didn't throw 30 plus mil at him, or however much it would end up having to be to go get him. But I think that would be a really good pickup. Which, and obviously, like you said, with Xavier Woods, not to leave him out of the dust or anything, but it's expected. I don't think it's going to change anything pick wise,
He
especially.
was a role filler. It was a player that was a starter. He played pretty well for us, but if you look at the safeties every year in free agency, there are a lot of quality safeties that are always available. This is something I don't expect it to change the way the Titans are going to draft.
Yeah.
Don't expect anything like that. This is nothing of the sort. This would have happened no matter what. No matter what,
Okay.
this would have happened. So
I just wanted to make sure on that because, like I said, I wasn't 100% sure on what this kind of meant there. If, maybe Caleb Downs is in play at 4. Probably not still at this point. I mean, it still could be. Who knows? But
again, I wouldn't hate it. There's so many players. This draft is going to be awesome. There's like 10 players that if the Titans draft, I am like B+ and above. I'm very happy. I think this is a great draft for us. It's a large positions. Okay, not to get into this, but there's so many
we're
positions
about to
that
get
are
into it
good
here in this next one.
where we need to that we have needs, and they're quality players, and there's quite a few, and they're all going to be available to us. There's going to be 3 that are taken before us, and one of them's going to be Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be all right, Titans fans. I think we're going to do just fine.
Oh yeah, and getting onto the draft and things like that. Obviously, like we said, the combine finishing up earlier today with the offensive linemen, but everybody getting their crack at it here. I know the combine has kind of gone downhill over these past couple of years with guys not performing, not going through all the drills and things like that. But I think we both wanted to go through our winners and losers from this. Just some guys who we got. Thank you, NFL, for not clearing that super quickly. But this is going to seem like a little bit biased of a pick for those that don't know. I did graduate from the University of Oklahoma, but one of the guys who really impressed me, and it was on day one, was defensive lineman Grayson Halton. He's going to be a 3 tech in the NFL. And going into this, I believe on PFF he was rated as in like the 120s overall player wise, was like a firm 4th, 5th round guy. Now he's rated as 70th overall player for PFF. I think that kind of just shows from his athletic testing. You can see down here at 290, ran a 4.82 40-yard dash with a 1.7 split. It's on the broadcast. That was about average for what you want defensive tackles. But this number right here, 36.5-inch vert at 290 pounds. It's 3rd best all time in combine history for defensive tackles. This dude in college over the last 2 years, for those that did watch him play, watch tape, watch him play, whatever, he, from an explosive standpoint, he was one of the hardest players to guard, one of the hardest guys to block on the interior of the defensive line. I don't have the clip pulled up, but in the game against LSU this past year, he almost picked off a reverse. Now, it was a double reverse on the second pitch, but he almost picked it off. That's how explosive of a player he can be. I'm going to show this clip from the Senior Bowl this year. I'll just let you watch. I don't know if you have seen it or not here. But I believe this is against Jake Slaughter, who is a guy who's probably going to end up being a day 2 pick at center from Florida. Just want you to watch this real quick. He just destroyed him. It was on the interior. He is a really good pass rusher, and that's going to sound super biased. It is biased. I'll be honest with you, but you can see the measurables there. I think you said he's 6'3", 293 with 31-inch arms, still longer than what Reuben Baines are, ironically, but he was really impressive from an athletic standpoint, and he made himself some money there. I would not be upset with the Titans if he does somehow fall to the 4th round. I don't think they're going to spend a 3rd round pick. I think it's going to stay virtually the same at this point. But I would not be upset at all to see if the Titans want to not necessarily fill the Tavondre Sweat role, but get somebody alongside Jeff Simmons on third downs who can go out and be a pass rusher from a 3-tech. And it's going to be maybe not this year, but a couple years down the road, mismatch for these guards over him because of just a lightning quick first step. I would be very excited about that pick with like a fourth round pick from him. So I don't know if you watched it at all, but you see it tweaking out on this because crap system. But either way, that was one of my winners. Ethan, I have one here for you. You probably see it, maybe not. Bang, Jeremiah Love. Obviously, everybody was excited for him.
Yep. So there has been a lot of interesting talk about Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame. He tested extremely well, as you can see, 4.36 40. He's sitting at 6 foot, 212 pounds. Like, he is an amazing prospect. And why is Siri talking? Leave me alone. Sorry about that. Hopefully I didn't mess up my audio. But
dude, you sounded great.
Dude, why does this keep happening? My Siri just keeps popping up. Dude, shut up.
Dude, it's too cool, I guess. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay. Maybe because he keeps saying your name. All right. Sorry about that. But this is one of those players that we've discussed a lot about, whether it's in a little trade back or, we just take him at 4. And I think my original sentiment was don't take him at 4. If you're going to take him, you have to trade back. And I think my opinion's still the same. If there was a list of my top 8 players, he's number 8. But then again, if you look at previous drafts for me and how my thoughts on the players are, there's a lot of players that I wouldn't take that are near that list. There should be no player other than maybe a couple offensive linemen that I really just wouldn't be happy about. Yeah. Like I just be like, okay, what are we doing? Like, why are we taking offensive linemen? So, and there was an interesting report from Matthew Berry as a video that I saw. He has been hearing a lot of chatter about how much the Titans love Jeremiah Love. Now, is this strategic on their part, maybe to bring up the value on the player, or maybe to get a team in front of them to draft him? Who knows? Who knows? But there was a lot of reports coming out of the combine that the Titans think that Jeremiah Love is the best player in the draft. And Mike Borgonzi made it very clear that talent matters more than anything. You want to find a fine line from drafting a talent at a position of need and like finding the sweet spot between the two. Now, let's be honest here. Running back is typically a position that you don't want to draft that early. It's not really unless you are like in a very good position and for some reason you have a really high pick, like the Chiefs. That's a perfect example. Like, why wouldn't you take Jeremiah Love at that pick? You've got Patrick Mahomes. Might as well get him a weapon. So this is similar. I really would not be upset about this. He performed extremely well. If the Titans think that he's the best player in the draft, draft him. Why not? He had over 2,500 yards in the last 2 years. Plenty of touchdowns. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things that, like, I mean, think about how Chris McCaffrey affects the 49ers offense. To say that drafting a running back's a waste of a pick because they just don't have as much of an impact, they get paid more money than respectively, and then you can find similar production in free agency, all of these can be somewhat true. But to say that having an immense talent, let's just say, did Derrick Henry help the Titans be really good? I wonder what made the Titans really, really good during those last 5 years with Derrick. Oh, gosh, it's hard to say.
Actually giving him more carries than 5 a game.
It was having Derrick Henry run over people because it makes every other part of the game better. The RPO's a threat, because you got Derek. You could be handing the ball off to Derek, so it just changes things. Having a good running back, a really good running back. Do you think the Falcons regret drafting Bijan Robinson? Do you think the Lions regret taking Jahmyr Gibbs? No, none of these teams regret having top talent running backs. If you think he is the best player in the draft, then take him. That's just my thoughts on that.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, and I can't say I would be overly upset if they were to take him here, especially if something does end up happening. You end up filling in spots in free agency at right guard and at center with some quality players to pair alongside Peter Skronsky, who I know they're working on getting him and Big Jeff contract extension here this offseason, I believe is what was said from Borgo and them. But yeah, I mean, you pair him up with Jeremiah Love in the backfield, Cam Smith up with Jeremiah Love in the backfield, and you address, some of those needs at wide receiver in free agency, whether it be an Alec Pierce or a Wan'Dale Robinson. And then on top of that as well, going out and getting somebody like a Chris Brazzell, who I'm going to talk about next because I thought he had a pretty good day as well. I think that puts you in an opportunity to build off of a season ago, be able to get some confidence in your offense, get some confidence under your young quarterback, your second year quarterback, and be able to start building things up the right way alongside testing that defense as well. And I just talked about him. That was one of the other guys that I felt like had a pretty good pro day, or excuse me, not pro day. Pro day is not for another month, but a pretty good day overall at the combine was Chris Brazzell, wide receiver from Tennessee, obviously 6'4". We know what he is as a deep ball threat. He is one of the best in this draft. And to see this number right here, the 4.37, I can't say I was fully expecting that. I might just be a casual, not ball knower. But to see him go out there, that 4.37, with the jump ball 50-50 ball ability that he possesses, I think this would be a home run pick in the third round if he gets there for Tennessee, because of it's a completely different body type at wide receiver than what the Titans have right now. Because you think about Alec, he's somebody who can, work pretty decent in between the numbers, and maybe not as big of a deep threat. Chim is kind of just we've talked about what he is. He's a guy who's going to be a special teams superstar, and you designate 5 touches a game for him, and that's kind of it. And then with Gunner, he's your safety net. Chris Brazzell would bring it entirely. God, it just keeps freaking out on me. The Chris Brazzell brings an entirely new, just everything to this. He brings an entirely different game than what even with what some of these other guys have. I'm going to turn this off because it starts upsetting, and I think it's also freaking out as well. Brings an entirely different look to this offense because you have a guy who can go win down the field. You put him in one-on-one, more times than not, Chris Brazzell is going to be able to win. And it's not like we're sitting here talking about a Keon Coleman who's I think he's 6'1", 6 foot, a guy who kind of prioritized and contested catch balls. He's 6'4". He's going to be taller than most of the corners out there. He's going to have, the ability to win at the catch point better than most corners will, better than most safeties will. And obviously he has the speed to get by everybody, and we all know the arm strength that Cam has. So I think this would be a great pick at 3. I think that 4.37 is such a huge deal. Obviously, this split as well, 1.52 for the 10-yard split. I think this would be a great pick there. I think this would be fantastic.
It just brings a juice, I think it invigorates an offense. I mean, think about what Jalen Waddle does when he's on the field, and Tyreek Hill. It just brings an energy and a speed that really can just help out the entire. If you have a deep open threat in the deep ball, that changes a lot of defense for you. I mean, it makes it more predictable. There's only so much you can do if you've got a guy who'll run past you every time in certain packages. So it's just one of those things. And with that, it all depends on free agency, because that will definitely be impacted. Because I have a feeling that, because we don't know it yet. I mean, it seems pretty obvious to most, but we still don't know, that wide receiver is probably going to be a priority in free agency. We are probably going to sign one at least. And I know you mentioned Alec Pierce earlier, and it seems to be that from what all the reports are saying, Alec Pierce has been told by the Colts from many different people that they are planning to keep him. They are going to try to
Okay.
keep him in any way possible. But then again, that may fall through. That's just the reports, and typically those kind of follow through. If it's at least out to our
Yeah.
stratosphere, to like the reporter stuff, it's usually pretty close.
I would say generally it's
But
like they're probably pretty close to getting a deal done. It's just kind of, dotting some I's, crossing some T's is generally what that is. So,
or like what to do, whether they want to tag him or they want to do this, they want to do that. So it's like,
yeah.
you know. But on the other hand, it has been reported that Wandale Robinson is looking to be elsewhere other than New York. It is looking like he will end up elsewhere, and I have a feeling that is probably going to be with us. If I, like
Yeah.
I said a while ago, I think that was my prediction, was Wandale Robinson, because it just made too much sense. It made way
Yeah.
too much sense, and he's a solid player too. 1,000+ yard receiver. Why not? Wide receiver 3, 2, whatever you want to put him at. I just feel like he was utilized a lot last year because Malik Neighbors was injured, so he's probably, yards are a little bit inflated. He's probably more of a 3 or a 2 at his best. Um, he's got certain packages that Dayball knows, and he can teach the offense to everyone, and it'll certainly increase our talent in the wide receiver room, and that's
Oh, yeah.
so badly needed. So yeah, this that'll deeply affect the draft, and Chris Brazzell be an amazing addition. I mean, I would not be upset
Yeah.
by that at all.
I'm telling you, man, the 50-50 ball red zone threat, and that's something I talked about as well whenever we were talking about some of the mock draft stuff, was he's got a play style to him that you really just can't teach. You can't teach 6'4", can't teach 4.3 speed. You can't teach that sort of ability in the red zone as a red zone threat and just down the field. Like you cannot leave him in one-on-one coverage. That you just can't do that, because more times than not he's going to go win, whether it's over top or at the catch point. You can't do that. You cannot leave him in one-on-one coverage, and that's going to open up things for the rest of the offense as well. So, like I said, I think this would be a really good pick. Somebody else, I've been kind of trying to stray away from this, as I'm going to go ahead and flip back over to the last one since I think we're pretty much getting finished up here. Somebody else who I was really impressed with, wasn't necessarily expecting, like a Deion Burks from OU, Brennan Thompson, which I don't think those are going to be on the stratosphere for Tennessee in this draft, simply because of their body size. They have so many guys who are that similar play style, where they are small, rely on their shiftiness and relying on their, yards after catch ability, or in this case for Brennan Thompson, kind of the same thing as Chris Brazzell, going down the field and just winning deep is what he does. Obviously, Brennan Thompson, I'm sure you saw, but ran a 4.26, which is just blazing fast. And those two guys intrigued me a little bit. I don't really think that they're going to be on the radar for Tennessee unless they just get to a point where you're sitting in the 5th round, you see a Deion Burks or a Brennan Thompson there. It's like, this would be stupid not to take, and just go ahead and grab them just for the simple value of it. But either way, those two would be intriguing with some of these corners. Colton Hood had a pretty good day. I think he would fit pretty well in what Robert Saleh wants to do. Looking like he's probably going to end up being a first-round pick anyways, like later, in the 20s, potentially late, like, in the 30s with that. But if he does end up making it to the Titans, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him taken there at 35. And then outside of that, just a lot of guys, it felt like this was a really good combine for the guys who tested. One of the better athletically that I think we've seen, I want to say I saw on the NFL Network broadcast that literally throughout, and this was just for the 40 times, but for every single group throughout, like the first, pretty much all of them, it was like these were the fastest average 40 times from this.
Well, you also have to factor in that a lot of players did not run, so that's making that average. People who were slow at that specific thing did not run, so it brought the average.
It's like that's
down.
also true because like I think like we had talked about earlier, like before we started, it was you're seeing more people opt out of things. Like Fernando didn't throw, obviously, because he doesn't have to. That's the only thing throwing is going to do is hurt his draft stock because you can't go any higher than number one. So you didn't see him throw, didn't see some other guys, go out and perform at all, like Mansour Delane, Jamal McCoy, which Jamal McCoy obviously is coming off of the ACL tear, so it makes sense to why he's not, but it looks like he's going to go at his pro day. It looks like he got cleared to actually go at the combine, but ended up just not doing it. But Mansour Delane didn't. He's probably going to end up being the first corner off the board, whether it's to Tennessee or not. If they just love him there at 4, or if they trade back to go get him, who knows? But yeah, this felt like a really good combine as a whole from a drill standpoint and an athletic testing standpoint. Saw a bunch of people jumping, like broad jumping and vertical jumping like crazy. Obviously, like you said, D'Angelo Pond's going 43.5. I think like Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese just going crazy. Lorenzo Styles as well. It's another guy, like you said, safety wise.
Tight end out of Vanderbilt.
He went nuts.
Freak.
He was crazy. He outdid Kenya Sadiq, who is going to be a top 20 pick athletically. So
I mean, Eli has good tape too. Eli is a great player.
He's gonna.
I mean, it's just like get the ball to Eli, man. That's all it was.
He's gonna be. He'll probably end up being a day 3 or day 2 pick, like middle, like late second, early third, simply just because of his position. But he's an athletic freak, like you said. So yeah, I mean, obviously with the free agency coming up here in the next week, we will have a lot of questions answered about what the Titans draft is going to potentially look like. I'll have a lot more questions answered, like I said, on that. A lot more questions answered on what this team is going to look like. So I'm pretty excited about that. But, focusing on all of Nashville, the hockey's back. Preds are back from their Olympic winter break. And so far, 1-1.
Segment name. Let's have a segment name.
We'll have to do that.
A little Nashville news or something? A little.
What about Nashville news, but with G Nash?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's pretty good. We'll have to come up. We'll have to do something about that for sure. But
gotta change the background of yellow a little bit. That'd be cool.
Yeah, no, it's not two-tone blue. It's two-tone yellow and blue. Or if we're talking about the sounds, and it's two-tone. I guess it kind of be the same, but like blue and red. But either way, Preds back in play. 1-1. Beat the Blackhawks 4-2 on home ice. And then, were they? No, were they at home? Actually, I don't remember.
I cannot recall.
They were on the road in Dallas, and they lost 3-2 in OT. It's tough. I didn't get to watch the third period, but I saw that there was a pretty awful no call that should have been a Preds power play that they missed. I don't know if you watched it or not. Yeah. Either way, should have won. They're up 2-0 after the first period, then choked it away.
I was keeping track on the ESPN app, but I didn't get to watch. Plus I don't have that stupid freaking.
It's free, man. The Victory Plus.
Yeah, it's free, but I cannot stand. Okay,
no, it's bad.
Enter in your email and do this and that. I'm like, dude, can I just press an app? Okay, ESPN, you should have everything. You should have everything on it. Football, okay, it's just. I was so mad last night because I wanted to tune into the game, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm blacked out. Great, awesome. So I was like, what can I even watch right now? And so I scrolled down trying to watch the Vandy game, which I realized that was before that. I was trying to see when the Preds game was. It was at 8:30, and so before that, I was trying to okay, Vanderbilt's not even on here for NCAA baseball. Great, that's fantastic.
Were they not? I guess they're on SEC Network Plus, which I think is supposed to be the same thing as ESPN Plus.
Oh my God, just
it runs on ESPN Plus. I know that. Well, I know once the season start or with the tournament play during the non-conference slate. Dude, there's so many different streaming services. There's you go some on the ESPN Plus or SEC Network Plus, and then you got some where it's actually on the ESPN National Network, whether it's ESPNU, ESPN2, SEC Network. And then there's one where it's Flow Sports. That's the dumbest thing ever. Their broadcasts.
I've never even heard of that.
They started doing stuff. They started doing stuff 2 years ago, I think, for NCAA. It was bad. It was not good.
How did these people get contracts? They're
I
like,
have
yeah,
no
we're
idea.
Flow Network. We've been established for about 4 months. Can we do your broadcast?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
It's like, where did this even come from? Can we just not have it on ESPN? Can we not just have it on ESPN, CBS, wherever? Just have it easily. This is making me be like, how much money are people spending compared to like having cable? It makes me want to get cable, and I hate cable. I
Yeah.
hated it, but it's also like I just want to turn it on and watch the. I feel like I'm sounding like such a boomer. Oh my god, it's just driving me insane. When you said, "Yeah, that game was on Victory Plus," I'm like, "What the hell is Victory Plus?" Like, can
the
you just
only
not?
reason
It was on
the only
FanDuel
reason
Sports Network.
the only reason I know about that is because my roommate from college, shout out AJ, he's big. He's from the Dallas area, and he's like big four sports Dallas guy, and he was the one who told me about that for the Stars because he watches the Stars and things like that. But yeah, it's gotten pretty ridiculous. That was the one nice thing though, I guess, about NHL does a pretty good job of it for the most part with the way that their streaming is because you can pretty much get every game barring
A
whether
blackout in
something comes out like
Dallas.
blackout in Dallas or like an NHL network or like a True TV or whatever, which all those are on. I think all of those are on cable. You might have to get like an extended package, but like all those are on cable at the very least. Well, you can watch pretty much every single hockey game that you want to on ESPN Plus. That's nice. Like at least it's somewhat
Until
centralized.
it's in Dallas, and then sometimes it's on cable, and then sometimes it's on here, and then sometimes it's a monkey nut flipping, burgers. I cannot stand. I cannot stand this anymore.
It's gonna crash
Like,
out.
dude, can I just watch TV? Like, and I'm genuinely thinking about getting cable. I'm not even joking. Like, I'm thinking about
Get the old
canceling all
Direct
my
TV
streaming
box.
services.
You remember that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, just give me the NFL package. Let me watch sports. Can I watch the local sports? Can I do that? Thank you.
Get the old
Like,
Direct TV box. What about
it's much more
Comcast?
reliable.
What
Because I'm
about
telling you, that first like year of like, okay, most things are switching to streaming services. Like when HBO, Disney, ESPN was kind of a thing, and that was pretty much it. It was like, okay, this is easy. You had Hulu if you want to watch live TV, or YouTube TV was for live TV, and that was like YouTube TV was, I don't know, like $20 a month, $25 a month. I'll take that all day. Now it's like $90 a month, and then
Yeah,
it's $70 a year for the NFL package, and it's like, oh my god!
it's ridiculous. It's just everything
And
they
then I
do
have
is
to pay for
ridiculous.
ESPN Plus, and then I
Yeah.
have to do this. Then I have to sign on for Victory Plus, and it's free, so it's awesome. I have to enter in your email, send the confirmation, light yourself on fire.
But either way, let's get back to what we were talking about. I
God,
think the Preds right now. I think they fell back actually a pretty good way from from like that last playoff spot because I think Seattle, who is in that second wild card spot, I think they won the last two nights. So it's not great there. But I know that the Sounds are getting ready to start up here. Obviously, Vandy baseball is getting
sucking
underway.
balls.
I said, I'm pretty sure they lost tonight. That's what I saw.
They've
So
lost like 3 days in a row.
that's not good.
I don't.
That's not good.
I
But
don't know what's happening. It's been awful.
yeah, it's been not great there. Vandy basketball. They lost this weekend, I think,
They
to
lost to
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
It's a tough weekend for Nashville sports. This is not a great
Yeah.
weekend for Nashville sports as a whole.
Sucks balls.
But either way, it's getting to that point where it's just going to be busy 24/7 because you're going to have baseball with the Sounds and the Vandy, and then obviously you have NHL, and we don't have to worry about NBA. We're not going to talk about the Grizzlies. I guess we can if we want to, but
I like the Grizzlies, but that's Memphis.
yeah, it's just
Not here.
yeah. I think we can both agree. Like I don't know, NBA is not that high on my list. I went to my first NBA game like a year and a half ago because we just went to a Thunder game when I was out there. First,
I love the NBA, but again, I'm not buying NBA Plus. The ball bouncing backwards digital so I can watch
Bouncing
an
debt.
occasional game of the team I like. Like I'm not doing it. Especially because the Grizzlies aren't very good. They're like middle of the pack. Grizzlies are my team just because it's a Tennessee team. I like Ja. I like a lot of the players. I was kind of really invested when I was in college. But like now, dude, it's just like I will not. I refuse to pay. Like, just imagine if you had a list to look at all. We're back on this again. Just to look at all your streaming services you're paying for, it's like 15. If you wanted to watch every sport you wanted to watch, whenever you wanted, without having to be like, okay, I guess I'll buy this for 1 month. If you just wanted to have
Imagine any
watch
passwords
every game.
you have to remember. Like if somebody was like
It'd be
actually
like-
serious about keeping their like keeping their stuff safe, so they like use a different password every single time. I think I would have a brain aneurysm trying to remember that. It'd be
Like, how did we get to this?
he might have Ethan might have a brain aneurysm if he keeps
I'm
talking
feeling
about
like
it.
it, man. I'm feeling like it. This is just it's so absurd.
Yeah. But yeah, this is the intro to our new segment, Nashville News.
Nash
Starting
news.
with the G. Nash. G Nash.
Ganache.
Hating on T-Rack.
Yeah, I hate T-Rack. This ain't T-Rack news, bro. T-Rack sucks.
Scumbag behavior. Can't believe you're a Titans fan. But that's all from us. That's all. Promise we're not going to go on our normal rants that we do at the end of these that make it last even longer.
We
But
literally just did.
well, this doesn't count. This is a new segment that we're talking about. But this doesn't count. But that's all from us. We'll be back probably next week, I think, right? We'll talk about next week
Yeah.
with free agency kicking off. Kind of talk about, once again, our short list for guys who are going to be on the Titans' radar. Guys like we did talk about tonight with Wando Robinson or maybe a Trey Hendrickson. Depending on what happens, either way.
But there's gonna be a lot of news coming out. So like there's gonna be a lot of agents talking, a lot of connections. So I think we're gonna do probably a little list who we really want to see and like some rumors and stuff.
Oh yeah. But like I said, that's all from us. We'll see y'all next week with some free agent news. That's it.
See you later, guys.
Peace.